Hello, I'm Abby.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
And welcome to the first episode of The Mystery Room.
Just to let everybody know, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, so my voice sounds like I've been smoking 50 a day. I don't usually sound like this, so apologies in advance.
She does usually sound like that. No, I'm joking. Okay, so I don't know if we've mentioned it in our Instagram post, we probably haven't, but every episode we will be narrating with a bottle of wine, and it's going to be a different bottle of wine every week. So what have we got this week, Shannon?
We have got a Gallows White Zinfandel. It was originally £8 because, I like the cheap stuff, but with club card price, it is £5.
So hit up Tesco's, people. I think it's pronounced White Zinfandel.
I did say White Zinfandel.
You said Zinfandel, but it's fine. It's fine.
Zinfandel.
We move on.
Okay.
Anyway, so for this case, we will be taking you guys back to 1939, a couple of weeks after the World War II started. On September 29th, 1939, a couple of weeks after the breakout of World War II, labourer William Ward and his dog were walking along a disused railway line in Whitchurch, Cardiff, at 7:30 p.m, when his dog started barking and straining, trying to reach a bush on an embankment. This is where Will got the shock of his life. In that bush was the poor, lifeless body of 4-year-old Joyce Cox.
Joyce Cox was a 4-year-old girl from Whitchurch, Cardiff. She was a few days shy of her 5th birthday when she was found. She is described as being plump, with straight hair, a fair complexion and rosy cheeks. She lived with her mum Irene and her 7-year-old brother Dennis. She also had a father, Arthur, who was in the army, stationed in Dover at the time of the unfortunate event. He said Joyce was accustomed to wandering about, but her cousin Alan said she was quite shy and she wouldn't just wander off. Her cousin Alan and Terry play a massive part in this case. Joyce's mum, Irene Cox, last saw Joyce at 8:30 in the morning on the 28th of the 9th, 1939, before sending her to morning school at Whitchurch Infant School. She left school around midday with her brother Dennis and cousin Alan. They stopped off at their grandmother's house, and when asked, her brother Dennis said Joyce was playing in the garden. They then continued to Alan's house where they dropped him off, and this is the last time Alan would see his cousin alive, as they waved goodbye and she went round the corner. They continued to go home, and Joyce's mum got really worried about 12:45 when Joyce didn't come home for lunch, which is not like her. Between 12:45 and 3 o'clock, Irene went to all different family members to see if they had seen her.
Okay, now,
I'm not sure why you would let a 4-year-old girl walk around on her own. Like, as a parent, I'm not a parent, but like, if I was a parent, I wouldn't let my 4-year-old walk to and from school on their own, even if it is with their brother.
I was going to say the brother was only 7.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw in the documentary, would highly recommend, by the way. It's called The Darkland or something like that. It's about unsolved cases. Anyway, I saw in the documentary that apparently in those times it wasn't uncommon for like loads of young kids to walk home on their own. Although, just adding a bit of information in here, there was actually a psychiatric hospital near the school, which you already knew. But I don't know how I would feel letting my kids, even if there was like a low crime rate in those days, I don't know how I'd feel about letting my kids walk home from school knowing that there's a psychiatric hospital right behind there.
But like, then again, when my dad was younger, like in the 60s, there used to be a psychiatric hospital in the village he lived in, and he used to climb the trees and talk to the patients there. And my grandma, his mum, didn't seem bothered by it. Like, oh, they're harmless.
Really?
That's what I mean. So, like, maybe it is just that sort of era, like, where things were, like, crime maybe was a lot less than it is nowadays. Because I know, like, back in the day, people used to leave their doors unlocked. Like,
Yeah.
you never hear about that now.
Yeah, that's very true. But then also I heard, again, in the documentary, that people were nervous around the hospital because they didn't have the medication that they do now, or like even when your dad was younger.
Yeah, no, see, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. So, like, why would her mum not go and pick her up from school? Like, it sounds like she's at home.
Yeah.
So why didn't she just go and pick her up from school?
I mean, obviously, they let her do it anyway, and there've been no problems in the past.
Like, yeah, that's what I mean. You never know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Well, there we go. At 3 p.m. the same day, Joyce's mum became extremely concerned and called the police. Search parties were sent out immediately to look for Joyce. This included police, family, friends, Girl Scout and Boy Scout members. Joyce's father was even called. He was stationed in Dover at the time, and his commanding officer gave him leave immediately. But sadly, by the time he got home, Joyce's body had already been discovered. At 7:30 p.m. on September the 29th, 1939, Joyce's huddled up body was found in the bushes of an embankment on a disused railway line by William Ward, 2 miles from her home. Found near her body was her gas mask, a newspaper with a written quote on it, but it's unknown what this quote was, a tobacco pouch, and her underwear. Her cause of death was said to have been from shock. She was also found outraged, which is a Victorian term for sexually assaulted, and had visibly been strangled. Okay, now, conversation time. So, this railway line that she was found by, you could only get to it from a narrow path, from a hidden narrow path.
So it has to be someone that knows the area.
Yes.
And I also think, like, as, like, a young child, like, I don't know if a child would go off with someone. Like, they don't really know, like...
Yeah.
Everyone knows stranger danger.
Yeah.
So I feel like she must have known this person, and she must have felt, like, safe around this person in order to go off with them.
Yeah, exactly. Especially a 4-year-old.
Joyce was a healthy child, but autopsy notes revealed that she was suffering from a lymphoid tissue condition which made her more susceptible to death from shock. Cleared evidence also showed that Joyce had been taken to a house before being placed at the embankment. This is because, when doing the autopsy, coroners found that there had been evidence that she had been eating a blackberry tart and chocolate ice cream before her death.
Once the investigation was underway, the police released a report stating what Joyce was wearing that day, in case there was any new leads or anyone decided to come forward, maybe of a witness seeing her. On the day she disappeared, she was wearing a blue velvet frock, a navy coat, plaid socks, ankle strap shoes, and she had her gas mask.
Can I just say, I think it's really sad. Honestly, I teared up when she said that like her gas mask was found near her body.
Oh no, same like that.
Honestly.
It's just like the whole case, it just really makes you like think.
I know. Like a 4-year-old.
Like, because we've obviously got like young kids in the family.
Yeah.
It really just, it makes you think like they didn't know and never want them to walk home on their own.
Yeah. Honestly, it just really makes my heart break. I don't know if this has any relevance. I know it was World War II, but I know it was in Wales, and obviously World War II. Was it mainly in like London and stuff that was happening?
Oh no, I think it's like big cities. They kind of
but like another thing I was wondering when
I know there was loads of bunkers around Cardiff.
Was there?
Yeah, there was loads of World War II bunkers in and around Cardiff.
See, that's interesting. But I was thinking, I wonder what it was like in Cardiff at that point during World War II.
Yeah, true, because like obviously at schools in England, we kind of only hear from it from like a London point of view.
Yeah,
Like we don't ever hear like how Scotland was impacted or how Ireland was impacted or how Wales was impacted.
Yeah.
Which I think they kind of should teach you at school.
Yeah.
Because like we're meant to be Great Britain and all that.
Yeah.
So like if any of like anybody listening is from Wales and they want to shed a light on like what it was like in Wales around World War II, that'd be really interesting to read.
Yeah, I think I just would love to know.
Maybe it'll set like a bit of a different edge to this whole case, because it's like, obviously we know from like just this case point of view.
Yeah.
Like how devastating it is, but obviously like with World War II going on around it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What else was going on at the time?
That's what I mean. You know what it was like in London at the time. I just want to know if it was not exactly the same, but similar
Like, yeah, like, were
Wales.
kids, like, because obviously a lot of families were separated at
Yeah.
like, during World War II.
Yeah.
Like, they all went to the countryside, they had to leave their families. Like,
Yeah.
was that the same in Wales? Like, were
Yeah.
people moved out?
That's what I mean. And Cardiff's a big city
That's
as
what I mean,
well.
yeah.
During the investigation, there was a blackout, obviously due to the war, so it was very hard to get good photographs of the crime scene. After this, the police did interview children at Joyce's school. It was a formal interview, so the questions included: did you know Joyce Cox? When did you see her last? Where did you see her and what time was it? Did you see her with any man? Has any man recently offered you pennies or sweeties? And if so, can you describe him? Okay, right, this frustrates the hell out of me, okay? Because why would you give such a formal interview to 4-year-olds?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's like, I get it, some children, they want to help, and obviously Joyce is their friend. Like, you can see from, like, photos from the funeral, if we, like, we'll put some up on Instagram so you can see. There was kids, like, swarm of kids, like, just absolutely devastated from this. Like, she was clearly, like, well known and liked in the community. And it's like, them questions are very formal.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like...
For a 4-year-old?
Yeah, like, they probably don't understand, and they're probably sat there going, what?
Yeah.
Sort of thing, like...
And also, ties into what you were saying a minute ago about... Sorry, that's some wine. I can't remember what you were saying a minute ago.
I was saying, so, like, I know the best people to ask in this case are the children.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's the people that saw Joyce last. But it's like, sometimes children might, I don't know, exaggerate a little bit, or maybe not say the whole truth of what happened. Like, you got to remember, they are only children.
Yeah.
And children have a massive imagination.
Well,
so
yeah.
it might be like, oh, one child saw Joyce doing this, or one child saw someone doing this, and it's like, a lot of the stories are probably not the same.
Yeah.
And it's hard to take exactly what they say as, yes, 100% this is what happened.
Yeah. No.
It's just hard in
Yeah.
this sort of case, because it's so... During this, a lot of children did come forward and told the police that they saw Joyce down a lane, which is also called Lucky Lane, which I remember rightly from the documentary, it's still exactly the same as what it used to look like.
Yes. Yes.
And that they saw her with a man who was dressed in all black. He was quite old looking, and that they didn't recognise him. They don't remember seeing him before. But then that might be, oh, it's in a distance. They maybe didn't see his face properly, and
Yeah.
so,
They might not even,
so them saying, oh, I don't recognise him, it's probably like, okay, it was a distance, and maybe if they got closer, they'd be like, oh, I know who that is. But
and I know it's quite far-fetched.
it's intimidating for a child to be
Yeah.
sat there going, have you seen this, Joyce? Have you done this? Have you done... Like, it's intimidating. If I was in them shoes, like, even now, as an adult, I would feel so intimidated.
And also, they'll probably think, oh, I've got to tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Like, speaking
Be
from...
like coercing them.
Yeah, asking them these questions probably puts things in their imagination and think, oh, they want this answer, so I need to give them this answer. Also, at 3 a.m. the day after she was found, her cousin Alan was dragged down to the police station, and we read that the police, and actually he said about it in the documentary, that the police were basically bullying him. They shook him at one point. And this sort of ties into what we were saying earlier about how, like, people coercing the kids into giving them not false information, but like information that they want to hear. But the kids don't even know. I mean, Alan said the last time he saw Joyce was when he waved at her as she dropped him, her and her brother dropped him off. So, yeah, I do think that was a sort of tactic to get any information they can out of him, and just for them to get some information that they want, not necessarily true, but...
Because if you were a child and a police officer was treating you like that, like, his mum didn't even go down to the police station with him.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's like, doing that to a child and there was a parent or guardian present...
Mm-hmm.
Like,
that is bullying.
Like, a child just be like, okay, I'll tell you what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just to make it stop.
Yes.
Because you've got to remember, he was only 7.
Yeah. Oh, God. I'd be frightened now, getting dragged to a police station.
I just feel like the police in this whole investigation are just very corrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know whether it was because of... I mean, I wouldn't say they're not corrupt now. I'd say some police officers, we won't get into that. But back in those days, yeah, I would say they don't have as... I would say they don't have as many laws as what they do now.
Yeah, and it's like, they're not as strict as they are now.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, there was, like, a lot of race back then. There was, like, a lot of sexism back then as well. So it's like...
Yeah.
There was some people who were police officers who kind of got, like, a bit of a power trip, and...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They think, oh, I am the law. I'm above the law.
Yeah.
Well, you're not. So, calm down. And then because it's like, even nowadays, you get a few, like, here, there, you hear about police officers who are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and
Oh, there's so many
like,
of
you know,
that.
committing crimes which
Yeah.
they eventually get caught for, and maybe they should have got sacked for a long time ago, but you know, that's another topic for another day.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into that another time.
It came to light that the man with a wheelbarrow actually turned out to be Alan's neighbour. He had an allotment which was on the way to where Joyce's body was discovered. And it was actually Alan's mum, so Joyce's aunt, who saw the neighbour pushing the wheelbarrow with the sack on the day that Joyce's body was discovered. A fun fact, the neighbour actually used to be an ex-police officer.
So what do you think about that?
Well, obviously, this information coming to light, the family automatically was like, this is a police cover-up, this is why he's not being arrested, this is why, basically, the case has gone cold.
Yeah.
Which I totally, like, agree with.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
like we were saying earlier, obviously, like, there are a lot of corrupt police officers now, but back then, it was a lot worse than it is now.
Yeah, because they have more laws in place now.
Yeah, and it's like, back then it was like, oh, I've got your back sort of thing. So, and it's like, you're a lot likely to get away with a lot more being a police officer.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're not going to snitch on their own.
No. And also I heard in the documentary that they were saying that it was shameful to obviously have someone in the family who was a molester, basically. And so instead of trying to get them help or basically hand them in, they would just try and hide it. They would just pretend that...
Really sorry about that. The mic actually just fell off the table.
Bit of a technical difficulty
there.
So, sorry.
Back to the case.
Yeah. So they actually... Yeah, so it was seen as shameful to have someone known as a molester in the family, and instead of trying to do anything about it, they would try and cover it up and act like everything's fine and dandy when it's not.
But then you see that with, like, a lot of people, like a lot of serial killers, where you don't want to believe that your child, or maybe like your partner or your father or your mother, is like that, and they try to do things.
Ooh, maybe the
wife
knew.
They tried to cover things up, and they tried to like brush things under the carpet.
Oh yeah, that's 100% what his wife did, I think, because if she's doing all the clothes for the kids, surely she would have seen something happen or seen her husband do something. Like, you wouldn't... Oh, why would you turn a blind eye to that kind of thing? Also, I don't know if you've heard about the Paul Murdoch... The documentary, The Murdoch Murders? No?
Oh, you're talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
oh my
I thought you were
God.
talking to the listeners.
We're on this podcast together.
I'm really sorry. Yes, I have. I've been watching them. I'm on the 3rd episode. I haven't finished it yet.
No, but Alex Murdoch was covering up what his son was doing.
Yeah, both of his sons, Buster and Paul.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, like, this is where you see,
Yeah.
because they were obviously high up in a law firm, where they're covering up crimes, and that's obviously what it was like back in 1939 with the police.
Yeah.
Like,
Still like that now.
Yeah, they're just covering up.
Yeah. And it's very sad, but it is what it is. I say it's a lot better now.
Unfortunately, because of the lack of the evidence in this case, obviously nowadays we have so much more advanced collection of evidence. Like, we have CCTV pretty much everywhere. We have fingerprint analysis, we have blood test analysis, blood splatter, footprint marks, DNA, everything. obviously back in the 1930s, they were very limited. They didn't even have DNA profiling yet. So unfortunately, Joyce's case went cold because there was no suspects that they could link to this murder. There was no evidence to link to one person. So, like I said, unfortunately, Joyce's case, they ran out of ideas and they could not pin it on anybody. If we fast forward to 2003, unfortunately, Joyce's mum, Irene Cox, she sadly passed away, never knowing what happened to her daughter, which honestly is heartbreaking. Like, I could not imagine losing my child and never finding out who did it and why they did it.
Yeah.
I saw some interviews with her son and her grandson, who now lives in Australia, and when he was younger, his dad always used to say to him, so Dennis always used to say to his son, you need to look after your brother and your sister, you need to make sure they're never on their own, you need to walk home with them. And he never really understood why. And then when he was about 14, his dad told him what happened to his sister, and he kind of then understood, oh, okay, this is why I need to look out for my siblings. They also said that Irene never said Joyce's name, and when she did start getting ill and a bit forgetful, she would mention a young girl, but she would never ever say Joyce's name. And they think that back then, because this is their generation, they would hide their feelings and maybe she would grieve in private, but it would never be in front of the family, which for me, that would be heartbreaking. Like, I could not imagine losing my child, never knowing what happened to them, and then never being able to speak about that child ever again, because it just hurts so much.
That's actually heartbreaking. I did not know that.
So between 2004 and 2017, South Wales Police reviewed the case 3 times. In 2013, the family handed over the archive to Carol Alsop, a cold case expert, to look through. Detectives from Scotland Yard were called in to help due to the severity of it, but I don't think this really went anywhere.
In 2015, Joyce's cousin Terry, he wasn't born at the time, but he has spent much of his life reading and digging up information regarding the death of his cousin. Terry has been refused on many different occasions access to the files contained in his cousin's case. He's been told that they have to wait 100 years after the case for them to go public. This won't be until 2040, and Terry worries that he won't be around to see what the case entails. Public archives will not be released until 2024 of the fingerprints which have been found on the tobacco pouch at the crime scene, which I just think is horrendous for any family. Like, it was nearly 80 years ago. Like, surely they can release the information now.
I was gonna say, like, that's why 100 years?
That's a lot.
Why 100 years? That's basically, that's so cruel for the family.
Like, obviously, Joyce's mum, Irene, was never going to make it 100 years.
No, exactly.
So, like, and imagine, like I said, put yourself in her shoes. All she wants to know is what happened to her child.
This just frustrates the hell out of me. It also does frustrate me that there isn't really much out there on this case.
And this is what the family mean, like, they think that the police are covering it up. Mm-hmm. Because any other case is made public.
Yeah.
So, like, you can go on the National Archive and you can read about any case you want.
Yeah.
But for some reason, there's no information on this case. And it just makes me feel, please cover it up.
Oh, definitely. I 100% think that the police are just covering for one of their own.
100%.
So, in 2017, South Wales did a cold case review into the murder, but it was revealed that the prime suspect died decades earlier, as long ago as the 1950s. They had reasonable grounds to suspect that the man identified during the original murder investigation was the neighbour, but due to the absence of direct evidence, he was never charged. Okay, another thing that just really, really, really annoys me.
Same. It's like, if you know that he's linked to it, again, release the bloody papers.
Yeah.
If the police are sat there going, yeah, we reckon it's him, if he's not around anymore, if he's passed away, just release the case files.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that the family can have the closure that they deserve.
Yeah.
Like, okay, he's an ex-police officer. Okay, amazing. a family lost a 4-year-old child.
Yeah.
A girl 4 years old. And they
Yeah.
are not given the decency to be able to just let it go to rest.
Yeah.
They are spending their whole lives researching and figuring out what happened to their cousin, to their sister,
To the daughter.
to their daughter. And
Yeah.
they're being told, no,
Yeah.
you can't have it until this time. Oh, but don't worry, we think the suspect's not around anymore.
Yeah, like, why leave it till now to say, oh, he was actually the prime suspect?
Yeah.
Why not have said that back then and done something about it?
That's what I mean. Like, if they think, pull him in.
Yeah.
Have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Find out.
I just don't understand.
Interrogate him like they interrogated Alan when he was
Yeah.
7 years old.
Oh, no. No.
Like, to me, this whole case just screams police cover up.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is.
And I honestly think, 100%, it is the neighbour with the wheelbarrow.
I do think it is. I mean, we'd love to know what you guys think.
Definitely what you guys think.
Yeah.
Because Joyce's family, they remain shocked that the police are keeping this case under lock and key, especially seeing as the person who did the crime is now dead. And they don't understand why these files cannot be made public. All the family want is closure on this horrific crime, and they worry that they won't be around to ever know truly what happened to Joyce. And I honestly just think, like, shocking police work. And
Yeah.
you'd think, like, nowadays, where the police are meant to be better than they were,
Yeah.
someone in the police force would stand up and be like, 1 minute, we know what happened, just give that family that closure. Like,
Yeah.
that's all they want. They don't, like, obviously he's never going to be prosecuted, he's not here anymore, but they just want the closure they deserve.
Yeah, I know exactly. So that is all the information we have on this case. Hope you enjoyed it. We've expressed our opinions quite a lot, but let us know what you guys think. Feel free to follow us on social media, on Instagram at The Mystery Room Pod. Please also follow our Patreon. You will get bonus episodes and early access to our episodes if you sign up, which is $5/£5 a month.
Leave us some feedback on our posts on Instagram. Tell us what you like, tell us what maybe like you didn't like.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can see us next week with a new bottle of wine.
Yes. Also, let us know if there's any cases you'd want us to cover.
And just to let everybody know, we are working on getting some jingles. This is a podcast.
Jingles.
Yeah, jingles. Little jingles. This is a work in progress. This is only our first episode. Please no hate. We are just 2 young girls, so positive vibes only, please.
Obviously, like you said, any constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism is all welcome, but nothing nasty, no horrible comments. Like, this is a positive place only.
Yeah, and also for anyone who are fellow true crime podcasters out there, we will take any advice you have to give us. So please reach out if you do have any advice to help us improve on this.
And I promise you, hopefully next week, my voice will sound a lot better and I won't sound like a 40-year-old bloke who's been smoking 50 a day. Well, we hope to catch more of you next week, and enjoy your weeks and your weekends. And it was lovely getting to tell you about all the stuff that we found on Joyce Cox.
We'll speak to you next week.
Bye.